Good afternoon and welcome to Chamber Live, the live business program presented by the Princeton-Mercer Regional Chamber in partnership with New Jersey Buzz. I'm Peter Crowley, President and CEO of the Princeton-Mercer Regional Chamber and your moderator for today. Today we're happy to have two partners from Withum. Withum is a nationally ranked public accounting firm providing advisory, tax, and audit services to businesses and individuals on a local to global basis. First up will be Rick Coyne. Rick is an accounting and auditing partner in the firm's Princeton office and has over 25 years of professional accounting experience. He's the team leader in Princeton, and his specialization is in insurance, restaurants, food and beverage, retail and supermarkets, wholesale and distribution. After Rick, Frank Boutilette is going to be coming on. Frank is an accounting and auditing partner in the firm's East Brunswick office and has over 30 years of professional accounting experience. Frank specializes in construction, closely held businesses, hedge funds, regulated investment companies. And it's my pleasure to turn the program over to Rick and Frank. Rick, welcome.
Thank you, Peter. We appreciate it. And thank you to the Chamber for this Chamber Live opportunity. We are always looking for these type of opportunities, and our partners have been on several, especially over the last couple of weeks. Withum is a forward-thinking firm. We're technology-driven. We have an awesome culture. It's probably the thing we're known best for. And we look to put our clients, along with our staff, in a position of strength. I've been with the firm for 35 years, and I've been through some interesting times over those 35 years and some stressful times. However, nothing as enormous and as all-consuming as this has been. You know, we are in the midst of a crisis. The COVID-19 has disrupted our lives, our communities, our businesses in a worldwide manner. And there's no textbook that's going to tell us how to handle this. You know, and we need to get there and figure out how to handle it. And I think one of our advice on this is we need to get back to basics. So there are some key items that you can use to manage through this crisis, and it starts with your people. You have to make some decisions on your people. Obviously, the programs out there are encouraging us to keep our employees and get through this crisis. You have to decide, do you reduce salaries? Do you reduce numbers? You know, do you have other items that you can work on with the employees? Also with the employees, communication. And you'll see that communication is key in all factors of what you're going to be doing over the next, couple months to try to get through this crisis. Can your staff work remotely? You know, how do you help them with stress and with productivity? Because many of your staff have not worked remotely before, and it becomes stressful when you're not as productive. Then you also might find, because there's a silver lining in all crisis, you also might find that there are people who come out of the woodwork as leaders. You know, they will surprise you as to what they can get done and how they take care of other people. Then you got to look at your customers and your clients. You need to communicate with them. You need to reach out and discuss what are their plans. Are you still going to have some revenue streams out of this? Or are your revenue streams going to be cut off? Are you going to anticipate that revenue is down and then find out that you have a couple clients who need you more now than ever in what they have to take care of for this COVID-19 crisis? And you need to look at new methods of delivery. There are several clients in our Withum portfolio who would have never touched a PDF, a year ago, and now they're requesting a PDF. So there are many changes that take place as you look at your clients. The other item that brings the two together, the people and the clients, is cash flow analysis. I often discuss with clients that they should have a budget prepared each year and review that budget to their actual results. Now more than ever, you need that. As some of you have experienced, it's one thing to calculate the maximum loan amount. that you are going to get under the PPP. But it's going to be another thing when you have to figure out and calculate the loan forgiveness, as Frank will talk about in a minute or two. So you need to know what your expenses are going to be over this period. Prepare a projection of cash flow. How much am I going to need over the next month? How much am I going to need over the next 2 months, 6 months, 12 months? Where your cash is coming from and where you're going to spend it. You know, do you need to, along with the PPP loan and along with deferring payroll taxes, possibly, do you need to do something else to take care of your expenses and maintain your business to get it through this crisis? Be conservative. You need to have a real picture now more than ever. This is not something that you want to overestimate on the revenue side and underestimate on the expense side. And the other thing you need to do is you need to be decisive. You need an expense, and you need to decide, do I continue offering this expense, or do I cut it off and say, you know what, I just can't do this right now? And we know there are many industries that live and die by that decision. And they will have some problems operating over the next couple months. The hope for all of this with the SBA and the PPP and the deferring payroll taxes and the SBA loans is that we can get through these next 6 to 8 weeks and then have our economy snap back a little bit better than other economies that are not looking at flushing in some money into the business environment. Some of our advice in this environment is just to keep it simple. You know, just as we are finding, you know, if you look at your life right now under self-quarantine, you're making things simpler. You're spending some time with your family. You're having dinner each night. You're sitting around talking with your family. Some things that might not have happened if you were not put in this situation. And, you know, your business analysis and your decisions on that, they do need to be kept simple. So that's part of what we're looking at. And there are a myriad of opportunities out there. And I'll turn it over to Frank to go through some of the intricacies of the PPP and also the, getting the loans and the forgiveness on them.
Thanks, Rick. You're right. So the PPP loan, and we'll talk about it's offered through the SBA. There are 2 programs the SBA has. I'll talk about the EIDL real quick. That you apply directly from the SBA online. This PPP program, you go to your local banks or your bank, your typical banker. So the advice we give to all our clients is talk to your bank first. Make sure find out if they do offer PPP loans, and chat with them about some of the criteria. So the eligibility, and this has been an area that, well, first of all, I want to just go back. The law was written in the middle of the night. It came through pretty quickly back, and it was passed on March 27th. Since that time, there have been a lot of FAQs that come out. So we've been trying to keep up with that on our website and keep our website almost live as we're going through the process here. So eligibility, it's for all businesses. 501c3s can qualify. Now, if your business is under 500 employees, you can apply for the loan. But don't, if you have more than 500 employees, you still can apply for the loan if you meet what's called the SBA standard size. And in their guide, there are certain industries that might allow 1,250 employees to be a small business. They're also based on revenue. So if you don't meet the 500, you have 1,000 employees and you're in a certain industry, you may still be able to apply. And then the last part of this, and now this wasn't in the original law, but it came out in an FAQ, that if you meet the SBA's alternative standard size as of March 27th, which means if you had tangible net worth, so you take your assets minus liabilities and minus any goodwill, if that's less than $15 million and you've had less than $5 million average of net income for the last 2 years, you can still qualify. So that scoped in a lot more businesses than was originally thought of in the beginning. Sole proprietors can also apply. Independent contractors can apply. So, and then there's affiliation rules. And quickly on those, if you are part of an affiliation with related entities, you have to look at all of the entities to see what the total number of employees are. And typically you're going to file for the loan under the EIN of each entity. And they've carved out a few, like the 72, Code 72 is hotel and food services. Again, that industry has been decimated. They're all closed. So in order to get the restaurants some money to pay their employees, they carve those out. Now, these are large chain restaurants that might have more than 500 employees nationwide, but they look at each location. So if the location in Manasquan, New Jersey has 100 employees, they could apply for the loan. So you got to look at these eligibility rules. And I know the slide deck is available to you. The next slide that we get a lot of questions on is on payroll costs. How do I determine what my payroll costs are? And this was another area that was very confusing to everybody, because what we weren't sure what they meant by payroll costs and what the caps were. So the way it came out with the FAQs is that it's wages, salaries, and commissions up to $100,000 per person on an annual basis. Then you add on the vacation and parental family sick leave. You add on health insurance premiums that the employer is paying. You add on the 401k match or the SEP contributions that are made, but it does not include independent contractors. Now, originally, everybody thought independent contractors were included because of the way the law was written. There was a semicolon, and everybody got hooked up on the semicolon. I know it's funny, Rick, but that's the whole. I mean, luckily, I haven't had anything else to do but read the law here. So for the last 3 weeks, I've been just reading laws, and I'm an auditor, so I don't know anything about law. But independent contractors can apply on their own. So if you have a business that hires independent contractors, they can apply on their own, so you don't get to count them as part of your payroll costs. Sole proprietors, right now, they can apply themselves. They were able to apply on April 10th, as well as independent contractors, up to $100,000. The issue we're having here is what's included in their compensation or their payroll costs. The law doesn't seem that it includes retirement benefits or health insurance. So we're right now waiting for FAQs to come out on that. So that's an area that has been, has to be clarified. So we're looking into that. Next slide, please. So once you get the loan, now typically you apply for your bank. The bank's going to process the loan. They should do it pretty quickly. We've had a client on Saturday, and they got funded today. So it takes a few days for them to go through the process. So again, if you have a loan outstanding with or an application outstanding with the bank, call the bank and try to see where the holdup is with that application. But they should be coming in they should be able to turn around pretty quickly. So you get the loan, you have to use it for payroll. I mean, if you think about why you got the loan, you the business owner are the conduit for the government. You are the unemployment for the government. So you are getting in money from the government and you're handing it to your employees to keep them on payroll. They don't have to physically work, but you have to give them money. If you do that, mostly all of the amount that you've received will be forgiven. And some of the forgiveness rules are, again, eligible costs or payroll costs, up to $100,000 an employee, interest on mortgages mortgage was incurred before February 15th, rents that were in place before February 15th, and utilities. So those are all costs that can be used to forgive the amount of the loan that you received. It does not include principal payments. And then the bullet here I want to point out is that not more than 25% of the amount forgiven can be used for non-payroll costs. So if you do exceed that, then that part that you pay that exceeds the 25% won't be forgiven. You'll have to pay it back. But the loan is a 2-year loan at 1% interest. So it's not a bad deal if you have to pay it back at some point in time. The lender will have 60 days to process your application for forgiveness. So you have to go back to the bank after the 8 weeks, after you have your spend, and you go to the bank and say, I want to have the loan forgiven. And then that's an application. The bank has 60 days to turn that around to get you back, the amount that you're going to be forgiven on. Now, on the forgiveness, and I'm going quick because I know there's going to be a lot of questions, but these are the highlights that we're dealing with now. Right now, it's all about loan forgiveness. If you've had employees before the crisis occurred, and now you have less employees during the 8 weeks after you get the loan. So you get the loan on May 1st, they look at the next 8 weeks that you're paying out your employees. If you have less employees than you did before the crisis, that percentage will not be forgiven. Again, the point here is they want every person that had been employed before to get a check for payroll to cover their salaries and the same amount that they were getting before. So there's also a provision in here for if there's a reduction. Sorry, next slide. If there's a reduction. So if you have a reduction in the salary, so I reduce Rick's pay by 50%. And if he's making less than $100,000 a year, then I will be penalized by 25% of that amount because I didn't reinstate him back at least 75% of his normal pay. So there are issues here and things that will cause you to lose the amount that's forgiven. But I mean, I can't stress this enough that the whole point of this is to get the money into the hands of the employees so they're no longer on unemployment. Some of the issues that I'm hearing from some clients is I can hire half of my workforce, but I don't have workforce, so they're sitting home. So I feel guilty giving them a full paycheck when I have people actually working, making the same salary. Those are things that you have to think about and when you're doing this, but know that if you don't pay those employees that are sitting home, that part will not be forgiven and you'll have a loan. So that's kind of the quick summary of the PPP program. And then I guess we'll open it up to questions that everybody has, and we'll try to head those, answer those as best we can.
So thank you both. I got a couple of questions I had here, and I know we're going to have some coming in. First one, I'll shoot to Rick. I understand that last night the state legislature in New Jersey passed an extension of tax filing until July 15th. Governor has to sign off on it, but two questions around that. One, in the past, if I receive an extension, I pay what I owe, and then I pay the rest later on. And it's normally a 60-day extension. I'm sorry, a 6-month extension. First question is, do I have to pay the amount I owe up front? Second question is, will the six months extension be able to be used after July 15th?
So we have a saying that, remember, an extension of time to file is not an extension of time to pay. And in this case, they have basically, if this is supposed to get signed today by New Jersey, but the federal, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania have all said, instead of having a due date of April 15th, we are now going to move that due date to July 15th. Now, if you've already filed an extension and you paid your tax, you have until October 15th to file. But it's as if they just said, hey, we are moving the due date from April 15th to July 15th. So there's nothing you need to do right now to make that happen. You can pay your 2019 taxes on July 15th without penalty. You can pay your first quarter estimate on July 15th without penalty. And you can file your tax return, your 2019 tax return, on July 15th without penalty. And New Jersey has motioned the law. It needs to be signed by the governor, I think, today, which we anticipate it will be.
Okay, thanks.
And,
second question. Oh, go ahead. Keep going, Rick.
And one last thing is, if there is, if you want to file for an extension when you get to July 15th, you can just put an extension in. They'll give you, right now it'll be until October 15th, but some jurisdictions are making it further into the year, November or December.
Okay, we got another question from Jill Levitt Ryan. If you do not have any other qualifying expenses because you have a home office, can all the money given be used for payroll and be forgiven? Frank?
Yeah. If the purpose of this is to give the money to the employees. So if you receive the amount that you receive, if you pay all payroll 100%, that's fine. Then that'll all be forgiven.
As long as your head count doesn't change.
Right. As long as your head count doesn't change and you pay the employees. Right.
So we've got a question from Nancy Sobran. I am paying an employee who I am paying now, although she is sick with COVID. Is this loan retroactive in any circumstances?
Not that we know of, no. But again, the law is kind of silent in some of these specific cases. So at this point, we're not sure what happens when they're on sick leave during this time. And what's happening if they have, like you said, you can't go retroactive. The expenses have to be incurred and paid. Definition of incurred, well, as an auditor, we kind of know it's something that occurred during that period of time where you're responsible, like for instance, a utility bill for April, that's incurred during April, so you can pay that. You can't prepay any expenses, so you can't prepay rent for a couple of months to cover that the shortfall between the amount you received and the payroll.
Got a question from Laura Reed. Laura says, what is available for non-essential businesses that do not have any employees? Applications are being taken for EIDL, however, the money is already tapped.
Well, first of all, if you are a business and you're self-employed, you can apply for the PPP loan for your income. You would use your Schedule C net income from 2019, and that's the amount that you would use to divide by 12, right, and you get 2.5 times that amount, and you can apply for yourself for that. The EIDL is open, but I haven't heard too many clients that have actually gotten any money through the EIDL yet.
Yeah, and to clarify with the sole proprietor, they do not have to have employees to apply.
Right.
Okay. So here's a question. Actually, the chamber had this situation. We had a staff member take a new job about a month ago. So if we were to, even though 501c6s cannot get PPA loans right now, if we were able to get a loan, would that person who left to go to a new job is not on unemployment still have to be counted?
That's a good question. For the number part, if you replace that person, you'd be okay. The second part of that is the wage reduction, and that's a question that we have, and our website has right now 17 questions that we don't have answers to. As we get the answers, we'll fill them in. But one of the questions is, if you have somebody that went somewhere else and you replace them, what happens to the salary of the person that left? Because you have to pay at least 75% of their salary, and you look on an employee by employee basis. So that's not clear right now. We can't imagine you'd be penalized for that. It doesn't make sense, but
especially if you replace them.
Right, especially if you replace that person, correct.
So here's another question. Can companies with only part-time employees apply?
Yes, they can. They can apply with the part-time employees. When they calculate the FTEs, it's full-time, so you take one employee. We believe 30 hours is a full-time employee. So they can apply for the loan with the number of part-time employees, and as long as those same part-time employees are working during the 8 weeks after you get the loan, it should be fully forgiven.
So here's one. I went to apply for a PPP loan, and the bank said they were only giving it to customers. I've heard there are other funding organizations outside of banks that are being approved. Is that happening?
Yes.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
happening. Yeah, we do a lot of fintech clients, and we're hearing some of our fintech clients are being asked to process some of the loans that are coming through. So the SBA has the authority to approve any bank or any lending institution as long as they follow certain criteria. So yes, they realize that there's some banks that are saying that. Frankly,
yes,
the banks don't have the wherewithal to handle so many applications at one time.
That's right. Some banks have actually been referring in other banks.
Oh, okay. So here's a question from Kevin Berta. Kevin says, can sole proprietors, independent contractors, and sole employee LLCs apply for unemployment?
Well, with regard to unemployment, in the past, if you have a business and you are the owner of that business, the only way to get that unemployment was to close down your business and provide the unemployment department with documentation that you closed down your business. I've looked at the New Jersey website, and I don't see anywhere where they've changed that type of decision.
I agree, Rick. I think that that sole proprietors would have to apply for one of these loans. And again, you use your Schedule C from last year, and you can prove what your income was, your net earnings, and then you can get 2.5 times that average over 12 months. Yeah.
Got a question from Nick. Nick says, once we receive confirmation we're receiving a PPP loan, how many days can we delay the receipt of the funds? Reason being, what if I am not yet allowed to open my business, yet I don't want the clock to start the forgiveness, but I cannot open to start the clock? Okay,
so first of all, remember what I said. This is to get money into the hands of people that are not working. So even though you get the money, delaying it, the banks have to have a certain time requirement to send the money out to the employer. And then you as the employer have the responsibility to pay your employees. Trying to delay it till you open up, it doesn't matter whether you're open or not, it's give the money to the hands. Think about the restaurants who are not open. They're getting this money and they're handing it off to the employees that worked at the restaurant. So delaying it, I would just try to follow the rules and understand the spirit of what this is all about.
Yeah, I would add that I've had a couple clients who the bank has said to them, look, you have 5 days to decide, and then we're moving to the next one. And in addition, I think there's a fear out there of the paying an employee for not working. And the IRS is not watching any of this. They are not going to be coming down on you if you pay 20 employees that never step foot into your office because they can't be working right now.
Right.
That's just not going to happen. And we try to emphasize that it's not the fact that they're working, it's the fact that the government wants you to put money in their pockets and continue them as employees.
Right. And one thing I'll read real quick is when you sign the PPP loan agreement, there's a certification. There's a lot of certifications in the back. One of them is current economic uncertainty makes the loan necessary to support ongoing operations. The next one, funds will be used to retain workers and maintain payroll or to make mortgage, lease, and utility payments. So you're certifying that's what you're using the money for. So I just want to say that if you're going to do anything other than that, speak to your attorney.
And Frank, just to close it up, who does the auditing on that? So is the bank's going to do the auditing on that, or is the who audits the individuals to make sure that they're playing by the rules?
We don't know yet, but you're not going to get this loan forgiveness by the SBA sending you a letter. The only way you're going to get the loan forgiveness is you have to initiate it within a certain period of time and get your documentation in to get the loan forgiveness. We'll probably get more information on that in the next week or two.
Yeah.
Okay, I got one more question, and we're going to wrap it up. From Kevin, my 2019 taxes are not completed yet. I have an LLC and file a Schedule C. Should I use 2018, or can I use an estimate for my P&L to figure out average monthly payroll on the PPP?
I would use, most businesses, small businesses have QuickBooks. So I would take your QuickBooks program and print out what your profit and loss was for the year, divide by 12 and use that number. And that'll be your support, and go to the bank with that. Also have in your back pocket your 2018 return, because you don't want to get delayed. You're not sure. And again, talk to the bank. You got to communicate with the bank. A lot of these are online, so maybe you got to apply online, but call the bankers, call your bank and find out what they're looking for and then apply.
Right.
So listen, we're coming up on our 30 minutes. I want to thank Frank and Rick for a great discussion. I also want to thank them for the work they do through Withum. And I would assume if anybody has additional questions, go on the site, the Withum site, you'll find Frank and Rick there, and you can always email them. Chamber Live from the Princeton Mercer Regional Chamber is our weekly live Facebook business program. We do it every Tuesday at 12:30. We feature industry, legislative, and regional leaders who are to provide information and answer your questions. It's really a discussion, and that's the whole part of what we think makes sense. But tune in next Tuesday, April 21st at 12:30 to hear from Melanie Willoughby from the New Jersey Business Action Center, talk about the support that they provide, and it's all free. It's paid for by our taxes, and Melanie can tell you about what she can provide to small businesses. Email the chamber at info@princetonmercer.org, your thoughts on Chamber Live, and any speakers you might want to hear. We'd love to hear from you. Be safe and be healthy. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.